that wars now bear. We are well aware that since the very birth of civilization, the absence of violence or war has perhaps been nothing more than a pipe dream. But in our time, technological progress has unleashed other, much more perverse means of waging war, such as the use of military practices aimed at sowing fear, terror, and death among the civilian population. Let it be very clear. We condemn all forms of terrorism, since it constitutes, among other things, a despicable act of cowardice. There is another perspective, a current perspective, one that leads us to believe that the main objective of current wars seems to be the systematic practice of extermination. The end has never justified the means. We must banish that old precept that war is the continuation of politics by other means. All war is criminal, irrespective of where it occurs, irrespective of the God invoked to justify it, and it will always deserve our most visceral condemnation. It is true that every nation has the right to its own territory and government. It's true that they have the right to establish a level of self-determination that allows a nation to coexist with other peoples. And the value of the United Nations is precisely to ensure that these principles are realized in a peaceful and civilized manner. No state that claims to be democratic and to live under the rule of international law can, even under the legitimate right to defend itself against terrorism, exercise barbarity against any civilian population, least of all against especially vulnerable and defenseless persons. Since 1948, Uruguay has maintained a consistent and steadfast position in line with the principles of self-determination and peaceful coexistence. Our historic stances on the main global conflicts, especially that currently underway in the Middle East, are well known. In this regard, Uruguay has always maintained the position of two states, two peoples. The Uruguayan government hence takes very seriously the reports produced by the international community concerning the Palestinian territories and urges the implementation of the recommendations made by the United Nations. At the same time, we urge the immediate suspension of military operations of death. We urge the suspension of death of innocent civilians. And we request the release of the hostages. In our world, at the same time, there are other persistent and worsening, more widespread and permanent tragedies, to such an extent that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted in this very assembly 77 years ago, stands as a revolutionary manifesto in the times that we are living through, beginning with its first article, which proclaims all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and, endowed as they are with reason and conscience, should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. How far we are from our own principles and commitments when we see that the gap between those who have the most and those who suffer the most is ever greater. How far we are when we see that the principles of freedom and equality are increasingly estranged, and we hear much more talk of a supposedly free individual than of egalitarian societies in terms of income